So first of all, what we're going to go base off in is that this is the data for a specific school. This is a lot of information. So how can we enter all these data real quick? It's as simple as this. What we're going to do is that we're going to create a data set that can contain all of these data and then try to put it to those data sets. So we're going to create a model right here. This doesn't require a list. This is not a list of data. This is a data itself. You know, so this is not a list. This is a data set. Okay, so we're going to create a model right here, and then you're going to see how the model is being created as well. We're going to name it school data, school model. Not data, school model, because it's a model, it's a structure, right? Let's say import material right there, and now we give it a class. After the class, the school model. Well, we want to keep the caps to make sure you can identify that they are a class. So school model, get over here, string, because the data up here needs string. I think all of them need string, all of them are strings. So to make things simpler, we can put the first one was string name. Instead of saying school name, we already know what it is. So we're just gonna say name. We're gonna do this, Control D, all the way. So now we just make description. Just make it tiny words to make it much easier to read or write or understand. Region. So region and country. The word is too long, just cut it short. Owner name, owner. Simple as that. You don't need to say the name. Well, it looks like we require the email ending. So in that case, we can name it name and owner email. So now that we've had that sorted out, let's say student email, right? And then we make another one that says student email, student counts, and email. What else is there? And password. So we're not going to put password here, you know, because that's a breach of information. That's their privacy. We do not need to know those information. So we just have this data here. So now that we have all these data, you can see all of them are red. We're about to change that very soon as we come here. School. Now that we have the school, is that we have to add those data into the school so that it can be used on the previous page. So the very first thing is required this name. Right, required this name. I know what you're going to say. This is really hard to memorize, but I've created a system where it should be very easy. What you'll have to do is just go to the previous project, take a look into it, and go to models, and take a look at any model that actually has things written inside of it, and then you can see they're all the same. They all have data, and they all have after they have data within the class, they have some other data inside of it. So this is the same thing. The data, the class that has data inside of it, and within it has another type of class, but it has a data inside of it, but it doesn't say class. This mentions this above here, right? So what we do from here now is that we go into this, we press this, okay, and then we make required. So this is all my expectations that you're going through, right? Because these are the most essential basic steps that you need to go through. So we have this, and let's do more, this, right? And then we're gonna do it for all. Okay, so now that we have this one sorted out, and you're able to see the data here, it's as simple as this. You go to the data controller, and we're going to try to create a new variable, right? We're going to name the variable, simple as that. So this is now a variable, just like a string, right? This is a string, right? So let me just show you how similar they are. So this one I'll name it school. I'll name it school model. Simple as that, model. and this one I'll name it title, right? Just like that. As you can see, they are quite similar if you just import this in, and they all requesting for a certain type of data of some sort, you know. And in both of them, you can apply this as well, and then they can wait. But the amazing thing you can do here as well is just give it a default data as well. So the only difference is that when you give it default data, it requires a set of data. So it requires a large amount of data. Alright, okay, so, but when it comes to a string, it just requires a single data. As you can see, that is very easy to understand. That they're very similar, but they're not the same. I believe I've mentioned this quite a lot of times. So this should be very understandable right now. Right, so now that we've had this one completely removed, we're going to name it a question mark to make things easier. Because we do not have a current data for it, so what we do is that we add this question mark, check and make sure it's null safety. Okay, so now what is the first thing we're going to do? We're going to make a function for onInit. So as soon as a page tries to run data controller, it would have to go through onInit, right? Okay, perfect. So this is speed coding, so I'm supposed to do this faster than I'm supposed to right now. So I'm going to try and get this as quick as possible. So let's say get school data. So we do not want this in a single data form. We need it in a list. So what we'll do is that we'll make a list here. A list of what type of data? Well, we need a list of school models, right? And so what we'll do is that a school model list. So what we'll do is that we'll make a list and then name it school model. So we made a list and then we give it a variable that is school model. We could have named it string, you know, we'll put a set of strings into it, but instead we put a set of models, a list into it. So with that being said, we can end it right here and do the same thing with a question mark, which allows us to not need to add any data to this. You just check and make sure it's safe. So one of the first things, as you can see here, we're going to try to get school data. So maybe, yeah, we're going to try to capture every school data. So yeah, perfect. So let's see right here. How do we capture school data? So that is a question you're going to ask yourself when you're going through this process. So when you're going through this process, you're going to ask yourself, how am I going to get this one completed? And it's as simple as this. What you'll do is that you'll come over here and take a look at the data and see how they're being received. You know, and then ask yourself questions. Most likely, if you take a look into this, you may have a confusion, but this is actually a variable that was created at the top. So you can copy this variable, and as you can see, this variable is Firebase. As I can see, you already have Firebase enabled. So you just need to initiate Firebase.instance into this, right? Perfect. So now what we'll do right here, as you can see from the page, we can click here, we can access any of them. Okay, right. Let's access a different one, a simple one that takes the simple data. Let's say this, because this one gets a seller list data. So this doesn't get a specific data, it gets a list. So as you can see here, it has async and await as well. So let's try to apply it right here. Async and await. But where was the await again? Seems confusing, right? It's right here, but how can we just get it all done? We can just grab the whole code and apply it right here. So now async and adult is all working. So as you can see, a temporary data was created right here. So we take this temporary data, put it right here, and then, you know, we copy the whole this code because there's a loop, and this is a loop as well. So we're gonna have that one right there. Boom, have it installed right here. So one of the main concern right now when it comes to this page, everything looks like it's in place perfectly well, except for this page. What, as you can see, is that it's saying that it does not discover what is a seller. It has a right to say that because the seller is not in this project anymore. So this is a different project. This project doesn't go by seller, it goes by school. So we're going to grab this variable up here and then add it right here. So what we're trying to do is, I'll just do it from scratch here. We're trying to add the variable at the top, right? So just to give you an example of what's going on here, this is going through the list in the database and then grabbing all the data in the database. So grabbing all the data in the database, right? And once it grabs all the data in the database, it applies it right here in a temp list that has a string and a dynamic. So this is a map. And what it does is that it puts it through a list of elements. It puts it through a list that puts them in elements. So it's a loop that goes around and adds the data into somewhere else, right? So this is where it adds them. Let's just remove this code so that you can understand this much better. So I want all the data to be saved up here in this correct format. The exact format that I have, the model that I've made, I want it to save there. So it's as simple as just pressing .add, right? And now when you're adding a new data into this, it needs a specific set of data, right? It looks like there's an error here. Let's see, okay, no more error, just in here. So it looks like you cannot add string here. That is incorrect because you know why? And you cannot add int here. Why? Because this is not a type of int or string. This is a type of a school model. As you can see here, there's a list type of school model. So what you'll have to do is only add a school type of school model. So how do you do that? Let's say you grab the school model right here, add it within this page, put the L, and then now you have this data, right? Perfect. So now what you're going to try to do is that you're going to try to grab the elements within this page and add them right here, all right? So now, depending on the page itself, the profile, you may need to add a different set of data. So for now, let me just do this part. Just do my part. Okay, so now everything has been added in different regions. Let's just give it a bit more space. Okay, so perfect. So now we're going to name the data in the database, which we don't have the data right now available in the database. What we're going to do is that we're just going to put it up as name, right? Or put it up of the current variable that we have to make things simpler for us and other coders. So what's happening here? What's in the element? The element is a map that contains a string and a dynamic. So once this is done running, add everything up here, it's going to be used on this other list, loop, to get these data and provide them to a school model. So it goes through the list of the model, school model list, and then adds new data into it. As simple as that. Quite simple. So now let's try to do something else right here. Add description and add owner data, region, student count, student model, student email. So now that we've had all those data added, it's as simple as that now whenever you run this functionality right here, it will add all the data up here. So the reason why we want all the data added up here to this list is so that we can use it in any other pages, and it's just as simple as this. So what if you want, as soon as the page opens up, the page loads up this up, and you want all the data to be loaded? It's as simple as adding it here. So this is how this works, and it's quite simple. It's really not complicated.